Hey there, welcome to Livewire. I'm your host, Luke Burbank. This week on the show, we are talking to writer and one-time arrestee, Kari Ferrell, about her memoir, You'll Never Believe Me, a life of lies, second tries, and things I should only tell my therapist, in which she unpacks her life from being the adopted child of a family that converted to Mormonism after they moved to Utah, to how she ended up lying, stealing, and getting busted as the so-called Hipster Grifter in New York City, a title she did not exactly relish at the time. Then we are going to hear some stand-up comedy from comedian Zak Toscani. Now, he was never a hipster grifter, but he was a kid who moved to Hawaii and was goth, and he was trying to square those two realities. He'll talk about it. Then Portland legend himself, Ural Thomas The Pain, will play us an earnest and soulful tune that's all about love. Stick around. We've got a great episode of Livewire coming your way right after this.
From Zuckerman Spader. For 5 decades, Zuckerman Spader has been a leading litigation firm trusted by in-house and outside counsel, businesses, and individuals. With offices in Washington, Baltimore, New York, and Tampa, Zuckerman Spader serves clients throughout the country and around the world in high-stakes disputes, enforcement matters, investigations, and at trial. When the lawyer you choose matters most. Online at Zuckerman.com.
Livewire is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
From PRX, it's this week, writer Kari Ferrell.
I think that I was a star pupil in master class in manipulation, and I just picked up on things really quickly, for better or worse, mostly worse.
Comedian Zak Toscani.
He goes, it's like your tooth rolled its ankle. And at that point, I was like, hey, man, if you're not a real dentist, it's fine.
With music from Ural Thomas The Pain and our fabulous house band. I'm your announcer, Elena Passarello, and now, the host of Livewire, Luke Burbank.
We have a fabulous show in store for you this week, so let's get right to it. I'm not sure if you have been following the news lately, but I would say don't. Would be my recommendation. Actually, as a public radio show, legally, we are not allowed to tell you what sort of news to follow or not follow. But we thought it might be helpful at the top of this week's show to start off with a couple of things from the news that don't literally actively suck.
Yeah.
With a little segment we call The Best News We Heard All Week. Elena, what is the best news you heard all week?
Okay, so it's news, but it's old, if this is okay.
I'll take it from any time period.
Okay.
Where things were less bad than they are now.
It's best. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the story of a Laysan albatross, which is this specific kind of albatross, 90% of which nests on one island, Midway Island, which is that island halfway kind of between Japan and Hawaii.
Yeah.
Used to be a big military base there, not there anymore. Now it's just full of albatrosses. They fly over the ocean 10 months out of the year, and then they come back to Midway, almost all of them, so they really have to be protected, and they co-parent a little egg, okay? There is this one albatross. This is Wisdom. Guess how old Wisdom is? 45, so ancient, because that's
First
what I am.
First of all, whoever guessed 100, come on. Like, play along.
Well, let's put it this way. She's closer to 100 than she is to 45.
How old?
We don't know exactly how old she is, but she is at least 74 years old.
Whoa, okay.
Okay.
I take it back. I'm sorry, 100 was not a bad guess.
Yeah.
I apologize.
You see there's a little band on her foot that says Z333. That was put on her, well, a different version of that number, in 1951. And then she was a fully grown nesting albatross. She's still laying eggs and hatching chicks. She's had about 36 we know of, but of course we can't know for sure. And Albatross's mate for life, she had a partner named Akeakamai, and every December, bird jerks like me are like waiting with bated breath to see if Wisdom's going to come back to Midway Island. She keeps coming back. She keeps laying eggs. And then in 2023, I think, Akeakamai didn't come back.
Oh, wow.
2024, she showed up and she started dancing. Because lace-on albatrosses, when they go on the market, they have this YouTubeable, funky town dance that they do to learn if they're compatible with a mate that they're going to co-parent this and sit for hours and hours and hours on this nest with. And guess who came back in December of 2024? Guess who laid an egg? And
Whoa.
Guess what happened?
Wow. Wisdom laid this egg and it hatched, and it looks like this little albatross is healthy.
Wisdom and her new partner, who we don't know anything about, sat on this egg for the better
Presumably
part.
younger, though?
Yeah, younger man for sure. Like 100%.
Hey, listen, don't hate, congratulate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And not to mention, Wisdom's children and grandchildren, we know her granddaughter was born on the island not too long ago. So she's beating out multiple generations for these new hot suitors, which is very exciting to me. So yeah, if you're ever looking for something to cheer you up around November, December, January, all of the albatrosses on Midway, and there are tens of thousands of them, are really fun to keep track of. And the people who love Wisdom will always put a smile on their face because they are so full of joy because of this great bird. So we love her.
Wisdom, the albatross, man. That is, it's a tough act to follow, Passarello.
Sorry.
The best news I saw this week came by way of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. A woman named Michelle Hernandez and her husband moved out there a few years ago. They bought a house, and it's a pretty good neighborhood. They do have this one neighbor, though, that like throws this rager party every year.
Oh, no.
But it turns out this guy is 87-year-old Doug Turner, who we have...
Yeah,
we
Doug!
We have some Ring camera evidence of Doug Turner dropping off the invite to this party at Michelle Hernandez's house. The thing that's interesting about this party that Doug Turner has been throwing every year since his wife passed away some time ago, it's a way for him to stay connected to the neighbors. Doug, though he is 87 years old, he is not in any way diminished in terms of his partying. This is the invite, which I think we also have a picture of. It says 4 p.m. until the cops arrive. Like, because so many people now have these Ring cameras, this was all filmed at Michelle Hernandez's house. I mean, she wasn't planning on it, but then, like, Doug showed up with the invite. So she went back and got the footage and, like, put it online. Yeah. And, of course, it's the internet, so everybody went crazy for it. People started calling Doug to try to figure out where the party was.
Because his number's on the invitation.
Yeah. Like, so, and then the media started interviewing him, and then he had to remember in the interviews to not give away too many specifics about where in Bucks County they are. Luckily, they were able to keep it relatively under wraps. They had the winter party was a big hit.
Ooh.
I don't know if the cops were called or not. It seemed like it was a peaceful affair.
Oh, good.
But, I mean, just the fact that Doug Turner is bringing the neighborhood together at a time when I feel like we need
more,
a party. We need more Doug Turner energy going on around here. I'm going to say that's the best news I heard this week. All right, let's welcome our first guest on out here. Now, listen, before scammers were getting the royal treatment with all these like Netflix documentaries it's like you do something and then they make a whole show about it. Well, our first guest was making headlines before this was the whole thing within a very specific kind of social circle. She was dubbed the Hipster Grifter after a series of kind of like mid-level fleecing of a certain kind of Williamsburg, Brooklyn person. She did some time, and now a decade later, she has re-entered the public eye with her memoir, You'll Never Believe Me, which the New York Times Book Review calls captivating, sharp, and very funny. Please welcome Kari Ferrell to Livewire. Kari, welcome to Livewire.
Thank you so much for having me. This is crazy. Wow, thank you.
I was one of the folks very aware of the kind of media storm around you back when you were being dubbed the Hipster Grifter. Let's start, though, with a little bit of sort of biographical information. You were born in Korea, and then you were adopted by your parents at about what age?
Yeah, I was about 5 months old. Okay. My parents are the whitest white people you've ever seen. And this is Portland, so I'm looking around and I'm seeing,
These folks know from whiteness.
I feel at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you grew up Mormon. How big of a part of your life growing up? And your family moved to Utah for this.
Yeah.
Like, how central to your existence was like Mormonism for you as a kid?
It was everything. I mean, it was one of those things where if you were non-Mormon, which there are very few and far between, people in Utah, you were like begging your parents to let you go to church because it controlled your entire life, your social calendar, every facet of it. So, it was a very interesting upbringing, especially because I look the way that I do.
Sure. Were you, my guess would be that in most scenarios, you were the only person who looked like you in most of the rooms you were in.
Yeah.
How did you try to make sense of that? How did you navigate that as a kid?
I mean, it started with really, I think part of the reason I'm so outgoing and, my personality and ridiculous sense of humor is born out of the fact that I was like, all right, I know that I have to make fun of myself in a better way than anyone else before they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a point in the book where you it seems like there's a shift in you where you realize that you can just lie to people. Basically, you figured out lying is going to give people the answer they want, and I can just be on with my life. Do you remember that being kind of like a pretty big moment of realization for you?
I do, and that's because up until that point, I really was sort of the, quintessential perfect Mormon child. One of those things where I was like, oh, I don't want to say the word but,
Yeah.
There was this weird freedom that came with that, where I was like, oh, people will just believe what I'm saying. And then, I guess, bigger picture, I looked at people around me and the church specifically and how they were doing that. And so I think that I was a star pupil in master class in manipulation, and I just picked up on things really quickly, for better or worse, mostly worse.
We call that foreshadowing
in
the business, because we're going to hear more about that in a moment. This is Livewire from PRX. We're talking to the writer and we're happy to say reformed scammer, Kari Ferrell, about her book, You'll Never Believe Me. We've got to take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Special thanks to our sponsor, Up Books, a Portland bookshop specializing in diverse authors, local writers, and independent presses. They're located across from Revolution Hall in the Buckman neighborhood, and they offer a space for book clubs, workshops, and events. Check out their website and grab a book at upupbooks.com. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I'm Luke Burbank here with Elena Passarella. We're at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon. And we are talking to Kari Ferrell about her book, You'll Never Believe Me, A Life of Lies, Second Tries, and Things I Should Only Tell My Therapist. Kari, you became kind of famous in these certain kind of social circles for some scamming that you were doing, but before that was in New York when this first became kind of a national story. But before you got to New York, you had started stealing from some people and lying to people in Utah that you knew, including, you write in the book, like a boyfriend that you really liked.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think was going on psychologically for you that you were doing this thing that you must have known had to lead to the end of the relationship?
First off, I love unpacking trauma in front of a live audience. This is great. No, I think that, again, I was very much still myself throughout all of it. And, as things escalated, I get the question a lot of, well, why did you not use, aliases, fake names? Why were you going to places places and I guess, picking up people that you would legitimately be friends with. And it was just an issue of identity. And it was an issue of not having a community to fall back on. I really just was addicted not to drugs or even the money. It was more so the attention, for sure, but also of not being forgotten. And I think it's kind of adopted kid abandonment 101, but I was like, I just need to be remembered for.
Yeah. So it must have been incredibly stressful, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. You tell me. In those early days where you're starting to lie to your friends and you're like, you're writing these bad checks to like your boyfriend's checking account, which is eventually going to come back on you, and yet you're also living this kind of fun lifestyle with all these people. Like, did it just feel like there was always a sort of another shoe that was going to drop somewhere for you?
For sure. And, a lot of people, I think, had this vision of me plotting and planning, with like my red string and cork board, putting it all together. But it really wasn't like that at all. I was just operating under the idea that by the time these checks would bounce, that I would have the money to pay the person back. And sometimes that did happen. More often than not, obviously, it didn't. But it was never a thing where I intentionally was like, I'm going to scam this person.
Right.
It was really just, I also had a job. So it wasn't even that I needed the money. Again, it was like I wanted to treat my friends.
Right.
I wanted to be buying things, obviously for myself, but also for them. So it was really a way for me to ingratiate myself into these groups of people. And, in retrospect now, I'm like, oh, I didn't need any of that. But for whatever reason at the time, I really felt like I had to do everything that I could to solidify myself as a person that people wanted to be around.
Right. So you would be essentially stealing money from people and then taking a bunch of people out to like Applebee's.
Yeah.
And buying the whole meal for everyone.
The old spaghetti factory, but yeah.
Oh, hell yes. Dude,
Better choice.
Actually, that
right?
place is pretty good.
Yeah.
You get to be in
honestly.
trolley car. I mean, that's pretty cool.
So you did end up moving to New York. What were you thinking was going to happen in New York? Was the idea to move there and like reinvent yourself yet again as like a law-abiding citizen?
Yeah, I thought exactly that. I was like, okay, here's my opportunity. I knew also that I wanted to be somewhere that had more culture, but I went out there thinking exactly that I was going to just live a quote-unquote normal life. And, I did that for 5 or 6 months, tried to find a job. Lo and behold, New York City is an expensive place to live. Who would have thought? Again, people were like, oh, you're too smart for your own good. I was like, no, all of these decisions were so stupid, and I wasn't really thinking at all. And so it led me to, needing to make money somehow. And unfortunately, most people know what it's like to be 1 or 2 paychecks away from not knowing what they would do, to get money. And I think that's another reason that this story ultimately is very relatable, because it's easy to see yourself on either side of my circumstance.
Yeah.
And, obviously that's not to negate any of the very, very poor decisions that I made. But, one of the reasons that I wrote the book was really to help to get that message out there. And, my goal is really just to help people, hopefully, move the needle toward a more compassionate society.
It's Livewire Radio. We're talking to Kari Ferrell about her book, You'll Never Believe Me. There must have been this kind of crazy moment for you where you are suddenly the obsession of this social group that you had really wanted to probably break into, right? Again, all of the people of a certain kind of hipster class in New York City are talking about you. Your mugshot is posted. People are comparing notes about their interactions with you. So you're like kind of the person they're talking about, but like not for maybe the best reason. Like, what did that feel like for you?
It was wild. And at the time, I really didn't understand why people cared or why they were so interested. This was 2008, 2009. So obviously social media didn't exist in the way that it does now. So it really was one of the first viral scam stories. The moniker Hipster Grifter, I remember there being articles. Within the articles, having to explain what a grifter was because it just was not part of our vernacular. Now it's like everyone's a grifter, everything's a grift. But at the time, people were like, wait, what is a hipster and what is a grifter?
Really?
And me, being an actual hipster, I was like, oh, God, the hipster part of it. Like,
Really?
that was like the worst part of it to me.
I was wondering if you were like a little bit flattered by
No, I was
Really?
not. I guess I've accepted it because I have to. It is a part of me for sure. But but shout out to the Observer, I guess, because how smart of them to coin, like that's really what made it such a viral story. But yeah, it was really interesting because I still never felt like I fit in. And it was, I guess, again, I want to be very clear. I'm like aggressively accountable for what I did. But ultimately, I was thrown up on a most wanted list with people who did far, far worse things. We just, 2009, Obama was president. We had hope. There were all of these things.
Don't remind these people.
I know, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't bring that up. I apologize. But we had just, we were recovering from a recession. Yeah, it was very race-based and misogynistic. It was kind of like, look at this, cute Asian girl who is actually this like fierce bad dragon lady kind of thing. And, at a certain point, the state of Utah really just wanted to throw the book at me.
So you go to, you sort of got like tricked into going to Philadelphia, thinking that you're going to go like on tour with your friend's band and maybe make your way back west, but instead the cops are there for you. You get arrested. And this is where the story really kind of takes a bit of a turn because you ended up spending, I don't know how long it was, in Philly in detention before they could take you back to Utah. But it was a little bit of time, and you really started to connect with the other inmates in the jail that you're in.
Yeah, I went to Philly exactly to go on tour with a friend's band, and I was like, all right, I'm going to turn myself in Utah. This was after hiding out in basically a flop house in Brooklyn for a couple of weeks because there was literally like a manhunt for me through Gawker and things where people were, like, I saw her in this place. And so the idea was that I was going to have this sort of final hurrah on tour with them. And then once they got to Salt Lake City, I would turn myself in. That's what I was telling myself. Do I believe that? I mean, that's really what I thought. But I thought a lot of things at that time.
Yeah.
I got off of the bus. And the police were there to apprehend me. And I spent almost 30 days in the correctional facility there before I was con-aired back to Utah. Like literally in handcuffs on a plane.
You went back to Utah, and then did you get a plea deal? Like how long did you end up actually staying in jail over this stuff?
So in total, it was almost a year. And to answer your other question about, I started making these connections with the other people that I met there. And up until that point, I hadn't really had much experience with the legal system, with the judicial system, the carceral state in general. And so it was this like eye-opening moment to me where I was like, oh, it's all different types of people. Yeah. You have an idea of what a criminal looks like. And I think, again, a reason that my story took off is because I don't look the way that most people, would think. Now it's like statistically, there's so many people who are incarcerated. Everyone here, everyone listening knows someone who's been affected by the system. And so, seeing the system and how it really wants to keep people in for a number of reasons. Yeah. My life now is really dedicated to advocacy and, just trying to get people to view punishment specifically, through a different lens, because we're really not doing anyone any favors when we, let people out with nothing and expect them to just get better.
Yeah. Have you, by the way, this book is really great. Like, you're a really good writer.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that, like, this, this seems like a pretty good outcome from all of this because you are a very talented writer. But I'm guessing that, the internet being the internet, not everyone is jazzed about you having a book deal over these things that were crimes and where you did lie to people and stuff. Like, what do you sort of say to somebody who's hearing this on the radio and they're like, wow, that's a pretty sweet deal. You did these scams and now you wrote a book about these scams and now you're on Livewire. The ultimate honor.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is the ultimate honor.
I mean, no, but seriously, that must be a conversation that's come up.
For sure. And I mean, to that, I sort of would hold a mirror up and ask people why they feel that way. Particularly when, people like Jordan Belfort, when people like Frank Abagnale,
the Wolf of
Wall Street.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can guy.
Exactly.
I'll just keep translating criminals.
Yes. It's interesting that those people can have all of these things happen and then, do kind of this like speaking circuit where they get paid thousands and thousands of dollars to talk at some like financial conference, right? Why is that okay? But a person who did far less and who really is trying, and I don't know them, so they're very well may be like a nonprofit component to what they're doing. They're an advocacy component, but why then will people look at me and be like, oh, she should not be able to write a book or profit off of this thing?
Yeah.
And I'm really not trying to profit off of the crime part of it. That's such a small part of the book, which actually there's some like Goodreads reviews where people are like, I went into this thinking it was going to be like so much more salacious. So I'm sorry for those people. That's the ultimate grift, right?
That may have been your greatest scam.
Yeah, it really is.
This is Livewire Radio. We're talking to Kari Ferrell. Okay, you did get the nickname the Hipster Grifter. The Observer, I guess somebody there put that nickname on you, which is kind of follows a long-standing tradition of like the media and law enforcement sort of trying to put nicknames onto criminals and suspects and people they're looking for. We wanted to see how aware of this world you are from your experience. So we thought we would run a little quiz with you of other criminals to see if you can figure out how they got their nicknames. It's a little game we're calling Identity Theft. Okay, why was Colton Harris Moore dubbed the Barefoot Bandit by media outlets? And it's multiple choice.
Okay.
So you've got options here. Was it because he removed his shoes before each burglary to reduce his carbon footprint? Was it because he committed his crimes barefoot? Was it because he exclusively stole left shoes from high-end shoe retailers? Or was it because he claimed shoes were, quote, government tracking devices in his manifesto?
I want to say it's the left shoe.
Oh, he committed his crimes barefoot.
That's boring.
And then he would also like draw these little chalk footprints and he would write the letters CYA, like see ya, at some of the crimes. He stole an airplane in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, and he crash landed it 260 miles away, which made sense because he had never flown an airplane before this. He had studied it on the internet on how to do it. He also then got better at flying airplanes. He stole a different airplane in Indiana and flew it to the Bahamas, where he crashed it in like the water right off of the Bahamas. Then stole a boat, which the police shot the engine out of as he was trying to escape.
Was he wearing shoes?
Exactly, I was going to ask.
This is the whole point. Despite the widely reported nickname, officials say he was usually wearing shoes. How about this? How did the liquor store Lothario, that was the nickname, how did this person get the nickname the liquor store Lothario after stealing a bottle of vodka? Was it because he made a kissy face to the security camera? Was it because he left his name and phone number with the clerk, asking her on a date? Was it because his plan was to give the vodka to his girlfriend as a gift? Or was it D, he was turned in by his wife when she discovered he had a girlfriend?
It has to be that he asked the clerk out.
You're absolutely right.
Yes. If I know anything, it's dumb men.
Right. You're absolutely right. He handed the clerk his name and phone number, which made it really, really easy for the police to track him down.
Amazing.
Okay, now we're hot. You've got one right. Let's build on this. How did the bank robber, the irreconcilable differences bandit, get his name? Well, that really trips off the tongue, doesn't it? This was apparently a real nickname that a bandit had. Was it because this bandit got into a dramatic fight with his accomplice who left in a huff midway through the robbery? Was it because he demanded that the tellers place the money evenly into two separate bags? Was it because he shared with the teller that he was going through a divorce?
Oh.
Or was it because he was turned in by his ex-wife who recognized him from the security camera footage? The irreconcilable differences bandit.
I want it to be the first one. I want someone
had a
to
breakup
storm
happen.
Yeah, like
in
during. But is it the last one?
It is neither of those.
Oh.
It is that he told the teller he was going through a divorce. I'm telling you, these bandits just need someone to talk to.
Yeah. I just needed someone to talk to.
Was that part of your thing,
yes.
honestly?
We need community.
Yeah.
We need
however
belonging.
You can get it.
Well, maybe not however you can get it, but you know.
I would say that this guy might have deserved to do at least a little bit of time. After telling the teller that he was going through a divorce, he also requested her help in wiring the money in such a way that his estranged wife's attorney would not be able to track it. So I feel like less bad for him now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, not bad. The book is great. That's the good news. The book is You'll Never Believe Me. Kari Ferrell, thanks for coming on Livewire.
So much.
That was writer and now activist Kari Ferrell here on Livewire. Her new memoir, You'll Never Believe Me, is available right now. Hey, special thanks this episode to Naomi Nussbaum of Portland, Oregon. Naomi is part of the Livewire member community and is generously supporting our show with a donation each month, and we are grateful for that support because it is vital in helping us keep this whole thing going. We could not do this without our members. So a big thanks to Naomi for helping keep Livewire in business. This is Livewire. I'm Luke Burbank. That's Elena Passarello. Of course, each week we like to ask our audience a question inspired by Kari Ferrell's life on both sides of the law. We asked our listeners something. What did we ask them, Elena?
We wanted to know, what's the most trouble you've ever gotten into?
So here's what we did. We actually sent our production fellow, Ashley Park, out into the audience at a recent live taping of the show at the Alberta Rose in Portland and had some people answer that very question. What is the most trouble you've ever gotten into? Now, this is kind of a long story from Anna, but it pays off, Elena. Take a listen to this.
When I was around 12, I hated school, and I was really obsessed with Miss Stevie Nicks. And I decided that I should go to Marina Del Rey, where I heard that she lived. But I lived in Western Massachusetts. So every day for like 10 days, I skipped school and plotted out on a map how to ride my bicycle, which I bought with money that I had saved without my parents knowing, so that I could ride my bike from Massachusetts to California to meet Stevie Nicks.
This is a real caper, by the way. You've got the 10 days where Anna is just like practicing her riding skills. She's got the bike that she purchased without her parents' knowledge. There's maps.
And she's skipping school?
She's
Did I
skipping
hear that
school.
right?
That's actually going to come up here in the rest of the story. That ends up being her undoing, not to spoil anything.
I got farther and farther on my bike every day, but I always had to turn around because I hit like a highway or something. And then I got caught. Every day the school called to say that I wasn't there, and I had been erasing them from the answering machine. But one day, I think I left on my bicycle too early, and they got the call. They found out. The jig was up. They found my maps with the little trails to Marina Del Rey.
They were determined.
Yeah, I was determined.
Wow. This is like a fifth grader.
I mean, that's my question is, as the parent, how are you feeling in that moment? Because, obviously you're probably a little shaken up, like this kid was going to try to ride their bike across the U.S., but also kind of proud.
Yeah.
Kind of impressed at the ingenuity.
I bet Stevie Nicks would be really proud of this level of rockitude from an 11-year-old.
All right. Let's listen to this response from Kim, the most trouble Kim ever got in, also recorded backstage at the Alberta Rose.
I said the F word as a kid, and my mom found out from the neighbor and put soap in my mouth, and she said, don't ever do that again. And I did it the next week. and I got the same behavior.
This reminds me of in the very conservative South where I lived, my best friend's brother got his mouth washed off with soap for saying bahonkus.
Is that even, have we even confirmed that that's a bad word?
I guess maybe.
It's bad word adjacent, which is enough depending on where you might be in the country. Well, anyway.
Bahonkus.
Thank you to Kim and Anna for, telling us their stories of wayward youth here on our audience participation point. Thanks also to Ashley Park for collecting up those answers. All right, our next guest has performed at Bumbershoot in Seattle, as well as the Bridgetown Comedy Festival in Portland, also the High Plains Comedy Festival, and literally hundreds of living rooms throughout the U.S. and Canada. And in case you think that's just me being a little hyperbolic, he has actually been making a living playing comedy shows in people's living rooms all over the country. There was even an article written about it in Vulture. He is a frequent guest also on the All Fantasy Everything podcast and has been highlighted by Time, the AV Club, and maybe most notably, my personal TikTok algorithm. Zak Toscani joined us at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon. Take a listen.
Thanks for having me. How we doing, Portland? This is awesome. I had a tooth scare recently. Woke up with half of my lower jaw swollen, and that sucked. That was a today problem, Sometimes you get a tooth problem, you're like, we'll wait. We'll wait a week, see what happens. This was like, I'm going to see the dentist today. And I went in, and in Portland, there's a stand-up comedian who does dentistry. That's why I love this city. So I went in there, and he does all the x-rays. Then he looks at the x-rays, and he comes back, and I'm like, here we go, about to find out what's going on. So I go, what'd the x-rays say? And he goes, man, I don't know. And I went, oh, no. And he goes, yeah, man, teeth are weird. So I'm sitting there, and he just says, my teeth are weird. And I was like, can you give me anything else? And he goes, okay, let me break it down to you like this. And I was like, finally, he's going to speak in layman terms. I was lost with all the doctor speak of, I don't know, and teeth are weird. He goes, it's like your tooth rolled its ankle. And at that point, I was like, hey, man, if you're not a real dentist, it's fine. You can tell me. That was actually worse information. I can't go get a second opinion on that being the first opinion. I'm not going to go see a second dentist, and they're like, what'd the first one say? And I'd rather not. I had a pretty weird childhood growing up. My mom got remarried. We moved to the big island of Hawaii when I was in 4th grade. And for not familiar, Big Island of Hawaii, it's the biggest island, but it's the least populated. It's not Oahu, it's not Maui, Honolulu's not there. And when we moved there, I was in 4th grade, but I was also goth. And if you're not familiar, goths are not indigenous to Hawaii. We are an invasive species. And you don't hear a lot about tropical gothicals, I remember what I was wearing when I arrived to Hawaii, like, wow, I live here. I was wearing Jinko jeans. If you have teenage kids, they're back, they're around. I had a white zombie t-shirt. I had a puka shell necklace that I painted black. So I thought I could bridge the cultures. It's like, well, they give me shells and I teach them how to be sad a lot. So I look like Billie Islandish. I had a bowl cut that I dyed jet black because I thought it would look cool and dark, but it just meant from behind I'd get constantly confused for a Japanese tourist by other Japanese tourists. They'd be like, hey, the bus is leaving. Oh my God, it's just a demon child. But very shortly after I moved there, I hit a growth spurt. I grew about 3 inches over a summer. And suddenly, none of my goth clothes fit, you know? Suddenly, my Jinko jeans were like capris. Kind of like how my pants are now. And I was like, Mom, now I look crazy. So you need to take me to Hot Topic now. My mom was like, Zach, we live on the big island of Hawaii. You are the hot topic. So she had to buy me a whole new wardrobe from a surf store, which I think we can all agree it's a little bit different vibe than a goth kid. Surf kids, they love the earth. They want to be here. You know, they're like, let me ride these waves. I wanted to be underneath them, you know? So my mom bought me board shorts and Aloha t-shirts. And she was like, that's your new wardrobe. And I was like, you have screwed me, woman. I can't be a goth kid wearing board shorts and Hawaiian t-shirts. I tried. I went to school for 1 day. And my friends were like, whoa, you can't do that. You're wearing an Aloha t-shirt? You can't do that if you're goth. And I'm like, well, this one just means goodbye. If you look closely, all the flowers are dying. All the ships are crashing into the rocks. I got another one inside. It's just sea turtles and plastic straws. Sorry. I knew I was the only goth kid because I was the only one in ukulele class trying to play Freak on a Leash by Korn. Got a Korn fan in the audience. I like that. I tried to start a goth ukulele band when I lived there. We were called Laid to Rest. I won't apologize. I look back fondly on being a goth kid in Hawaii because I must have ruined a lot of people's vacations. Just being in the background of a photo, you know? Pre-cell phone time, so you didn't even know what kind of vacation photos you had until weeks later. You're like, look at my beautiful family on the... What the hell is that? Just me wearing all black, wearing Doc Martens laced up on a beach, listening to Papa Roach. That was my favorite band. The Big Island of Hawaii has 11 of the possible 13 Earth climates, and my favorite band was Papa Roach. Just be on the beach like, cut my life into pieces. This beach is a resort. But I'll remember, I don't know if anyone here is a recovering goth, but I remember the day where I put down my sword, you know, stopped being goth. It was I remember it. I can remember that very instant. It was when I tasted mango for the first time. I had one slice of Hawaiian mango, and I was like, God is good. You guys have been excellent. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Zak Toscani, right here on Livewire. That was Zak Toscani, recorded live at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon. All right, this is Livewire. We have to take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we are going to get some music from Portland's own Ural Thomas and The Pain. We promise it's not as scary as it sounds. Stay with us. This is Livewire. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I'm Luke Burbank here with Elena Passarello. All right, we have made it to one of my very favorite parts of the show. I know this creates a certain amount of stress for you, Elena, because you are a high achiever. I know that you like to do well on tests, and this is where we test you about the location of a radio station in America that's playing Livewire. We call it Station Location Identification Examination. Are you ready to play?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm downloading the maps of the world into my head right now.
Perfect. This city is home to what's called the Skyscraper on the Prairie. It's a 21-story Art Deco tower. It is the tallest building in the state. It's also the second tallest state capitol building in the country. The whole United States. It's the second tallest state capitol building.
It's a state capitol on the prairie. So it's either Pierre or Bismarck.
Oh, my goodness. It's amazing to watch your mind work. Yes, you now have a 50-50 chance.
Let's go with, because I love French things, Pierre, South Dakota.
That is so close.
It's Bismarck.
It's Bismarck, North Dakota, where we're on the radio on KCND there in Bismarck. Shout out to everybody listening there in North Dakota. I have actually been on the grounds of the state capitol there in Bismarck, and it is really lovely, and that building is really cool. It's Art Deco. Oh. It is notable. You see it from far away.
21 stories is no joke.
Not a lot of other stuff that tall around there. Anyway, congratulations, Elena. Another success for you playing Station Location.
Sort of. With a great assist by Luke Burbank.
Hey, before we get to our musical guest this week, a little preview of what we're doing on the show next week. We are going to be talking to the writer Danzy Senna. This was part of the Portland Book Festival. Danzy has a new kind of dark comic novel out. It's called Colored Television, and it is really incredible. It kind of tackles this sort of area of Hollywood, the industry that you might call the racial identity industrial complex, and sort of the deals that people might make to get the version of their life they think they want. Then we're going to have a chat with the documentary filmmaker Penny Lane, who doesn't, Elena, just share a name with a niece of mine, but has also put out this amazing documentary called Confessions of a Good Samaritan, where she donated one of her kidneys to a complete stranger. And this film documents the whole thing. Then we're going to hear some delightful music from a couple of my new favorite musical guys. They are a duo. They are called Johnny Franco and his real brother Dom. They came to Portland by way of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and they ended up on the Livewire stage. So you don't want to miss that. That's next week on Livewire. All right, this week on Livewire, our musical guest, let me tell you this guy's story. He was primarily making his living as a repairman at the Portland shipyards about 20 years ago. And way before that, he had this whole life as a singer. He was the lead of this R&B vocal group called the Monterey's, and they actually had some hits. They had a song called Pain is the Name of Your Game and Can You Dig It? But after a while, he kind of decided to hang it up as a professional musician. He figured, I'll just do this on my spare time, kind of as a hobby. And then one day in 2013, he was at a jam session, and this local drummer, a guy named Scott McGee, showed up, and they decided to form a band. And since then, they have toured all over the world. They've released 3 albums. This is not bad for a guy who decided he was done with professional music. We are very glad that plan failed miserably. This is Ural Thomas and The Pain, who joined us for the 20th anniversary show, 20th anniversary of Livewire, by the way, if you can believe that, at Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. Take a listen to this.
How you doing? People say I'm crazy to tell you this, but I love you. And how can I resist saying it's true? I really love you. I really do. Can't you see how good you make me feel? It's because what you give, it's so real. Oh, I gotta say I love you. I gotta say I love you. I love you. Now I would never stand to see you sad, 'cause I love you. Oh, no, 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 I could never do you that, 'cause I love you. I really do. Can't you see just how good you make me feel? It's because what you give to me, love, it's so real. Oh, oh, I gotta say it. What you give, love, is so real, real in my soul. Oh, I want to say it over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. I love you. Oh, I love you. Every word is true. I love you. I really do. Oh, thank you.
That was Ural Thomas and The Pain right here on Livewire performing the song Gotta Say I Love You. That's from their 2018 album, The Right Time. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Livewire. A huge thanks to our guests, Kari Ferrell, Zak Toscani, and Ural Thomas and The Pain.
Laura Haddon is our executive producer. Heather D. Michelle is our executive director. And our producer and editor is Melanie Sevchenko. Our technical director is Eben Hoffer. Hazik bin Ahmad Farid is our assistant editor. And our house sound is by D. Neil Blake. Ashley Park is our production fellow.
Valentine Keck is our operations manager. Andrea Castro-Martinez is our marketing associate. And Ezra Veenstra runs our front of house. Our house band is Sam Pinkerton, Ethan Fox Tucker, Eyal Alves, and A. Walker Spring, who also composes our music. This episode was mixed by Eben Hoffer and Hazik bin Ahmad Farid.
Additional funding provided by the Marie Lamfrom Charitable Foundation. Livewire was created by Robin Tenenbaum and Kate Sokoloff. This week, we'd like to thank member Naomi Nussbaum of Portland, Oregon.
For more information about our show or how you can listen to our podcast, head on over to livewireradio.org. I'm Luke Burbank for Elena Passarello and the whole Livewire team. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a piping hot episode of Livewire delivered right to your heart and ears each week? Well, guess what? That can happen when you subscribe to the Livewire podcast feed, and you'll get the joy of surprising conversation every week. So go ahead and do it. It's super easy. You click on the button at the top of your podcast app, and bam, you are Livewire subscribed. And if you're still, feeling the love, if you're enjoying the show, hey, maybe you could hook us up and leave us a quick review. That'll help more people find out about Livewire. And thank you.
From PRX.